All right, welcome back. And now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to determine the domain and range of a function. Okay, so we're going to talk about these graphs, but remember the domain of a function are all of the x values that you can put into the function. Okay, so the set of all x values that can go into the function. Okay. The range are all of the y values that come out of the function given the values that you can put into it. Okay? So the range is determined by the domain. Okay? Now, if we look at graphs like this and we want to know, hey, what's the domain? Well, we can easily see, in this case here, we've got dots, right? So this is a discrete graph, right? So we've got here, 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 and here. So the domain in this case would be what? The domain would be all of the x values that are here. So the x values are -3, -1, 0, 2, and 4. And the range are the set of all y values. So here it'd be, so now we're going in the vertical direction. So now it'd be -4 up to 1, up to 3, and then up to 4. Okay. Now let's look at B. Now B, the domain, now this is a continuous curve here, but let's look at the domain. So what are all of the x values? So where's the lowest x value to the highest x value? So notice that the lowest it will ever be is very, very close to -3. Notice that there's a hole at x equals -3, which means it will never equal -3. So in this case here, the domain is going to be represented as interval notation. And what we would do is it would be all of the values of x from -3, but not including -3. That's why we use a parenthesis. All the way to what? This is going off in that direction to infinity. So it's going off to positive infinity. And again, anytime you deal with infinity, we use parentheses. So the domain would be all values from -3 to infinity, but not including them. Okay? Now the range, again, it's going to be, again, from here, the whole is at -2. So the smallest this will ever be is -2, but it does not include -2 because of the hole in the graph. And it's going to go up all the way, again, to positive infinity in the y direction. And so the way we would write the domain and range would be like that. Okay, now, for part C, notice it's a parabola that opens downward. The highest point is at 4, right? And, okay, now let's do the domain here. Now the domain keeps spreading out and out because as it goes down, the parabola is opening wider and wider, even though it's going slower, but it's going to keep widening. And so this is going to keep going in both directions, in the y direction. So the range, or excuse me, the domain would be from -infinity to positive infinity. So that would be the domain. The range, the highest it will be is 4, right? Because that's where the vertex is. So the range will be 4, and it includes 4. There's no hole in the graph. But the smallest it will be is it goes all the way down to -infinity. So this will go from -infinity to 4. And I use a square bracket because it includes 4. Okay? What else? I think that's what I wanted to say. Yeah. All right. So that is one way of looking at a graph and determining the range and domain of a function.